Okay, I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakat Kwadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teach the Bible in 100% truth, and Shalom to the hopeful elect of the 12 tribes of Israel, starting with the Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans in the land of North, Central, and South America, as well as the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners living amongst the other nations. Shalom to you. Okay, so back on the topic, you might have guessed it, it's the MOTB, and I did try to attempt to make this video this morning, first thing, but I had too many interruptions, and so I've had to leave it till last thing at night, so forgive me if I sound tired or I slur my words. About to eat and go to bed. Hang on, phone playing up as usual. Revelation 13:16. I've got an article to go into, and again, we're moving forward. The MOTB, the prophecy of the MOTB, is moving. It's it's similar to a juggernaut, runaway train, in that it's we're heading in that direction, and the closer we get, the faster things begin to happen, and we're seeing changes all around us. We know that we're in that time, 2020 to 2030, the Great Reset, they call it, and this is all part of the MOTB. We know that this is a change in the monetary system, a digitization of the monetary system, doing away with cash and credit cards and Apple Pay and so on and so forth. And we also know that this involves having technology, scientific technology, placed under our skin in order to function within this digital society. Okay, so that's the basics. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then there's plenty of videos. You go just down the channel and you will understand what it's all about. So we know the basics. This is Revelation 13:16. He causeth all, everybody on earth, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive. And so now we're going to, we're reading it in the English, but we're going to understand it in the Greek, what it was originally written in. It says here to receive an incision in the skin, in their dominant hand, or in their foreheads, in their metapon. So the Greek word for forehead, I believe, is meta, and you have the metaverse, for example, this a virtual world reality where you can merge yourself into this digital online world, which is the metaverse. That we have at the minute. So, and then he goes on to say, and that no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark, the incision in the skin, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So there's something, we can clearly, by understanding this in the Greek, we can clearly understand that there's going to be a monetary change worldwide, and it's going to affect everybody on the planet Earth. And we understand that with this change, you will need a particular incision in the skin to buy or sell. Now we push the understanding, I'm talking about the men of GMS and everybody affiliated with that same understanding. For example, myself, we understand through the Holy Spirit that what is it that's going to be placed in that incision in the skin, something that you can buy or sell with, and we push that as scientific technology, RFID microchip, and pretty much this gives you an identification and allows you access to payment and to enter buildings and so on and so forth. Now, the scriptures don't say that particular part, but you have to, you use the Holy Spirit, you look around, you see what's actually happening, and you see there's great changes taking place towards that particular thing happening. We can see the WEF are making announcements that one day everybody will have a chip implanted under their skin in order to participate in society. So it's very obvious to see what we're talking about. But how is it that this is something that's scientific, and this modern technology? How do we know it's just not a piece of wood or a piece of stone that we're going to place under our skin? Well, obviously, first of all, you can't buy with a piece of wood or a piece of stone. You need some sort of modern technology to fit in to the structure that we have in society. So, for example, you go to shops and they have scanners, Wi-Fi scanners, and you just go up, you tap your credit card and payment is taken, or you tap your phone and payment is taken. So once you place an RFID microchip under the skin, all you will have to do is, wave your hand over this particular scanner and it will receive who you are. But then it goes on, we have to also look at the point, or in their foreheads. So this incision in the skin is going to be, could be in the hand, in the dominant hand. And so, when you go to the UK, dominant driving side is the left, and on the right in the USA. So, they very well asked you to take it in particular hands, depending on which nation you live in. So it's very easy to understand how that an incision in the skin where technology is placed into that, you then go into these shops which already have these scanners. It's very easy to see how that you will be using that to pay. But when you look at the forehead, it doesn't quite make so much sense. Why is that one particular thing detailed in these scriptures? If you're someone who has no arms, for example, and you're in a wheelchair, and then you might have a chip in your forehead in order for you to access doors and make payment. That is understandable. But when you look at the amount of people in the world today who are actually like that, it's very, 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 very small in number. So why would such a very small number of people have a huge mention in the scripture? Because ultimately, to be mentioned in this scriptures, this has to be something major. And this is the book of Revelation, and it's talking about the MOTB, the mark of the beast, the final judgment, the final temptation given by Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. So anything mentioned about it is going to be of huge significance. And to say, well, that just relates to people who are going to have chips in their foreheads who have no arms. You're going to probably have about 25 people worldwide who are actually in that physical condition, maybe more. I'm just picking a number off the top of my head. You could say 200, 500, 1,000. It's still half of a drop in the ocean. So what it is, this is actually giving you insight into what is actually placed into the incision in the skin. You see, we go backwards, we have the incision in the skin, and we know that's going to be modern scientific technology put in for you to participate in this modern scientific online world, this digital world. And if you don't, make the change, then you won't be able to participate in that society. So one way in which you can kind of back that up to say, well, this has to be some sort of modern technology, because what gets placed into the mind in this current day and age through incisions in the skin, how can I put it? Mental manipulation is put in through the mind, through incisions in the skin. And so ultimately, and I've explained it before, the MOTB goes deeper than just having something in your hand, which you can just buy or sell. It goes into total control and being able to manipulate your moods and your behavior as a population. I mentioned it in the previous video that if the Edomites had this plan and they were able to get away with this plan, then they would pretty much become the most high on this planet, because then everybody who would ever be born for the rest of, however old the earth becomes, for the rest of forever, forever and ever, basically. Anybody that's ever born will then be under their control, being manipulated by them through, having their thoughts controlled by them. These certain particular small group of people who control this MOTB will then, be able to read your feelings and how you're reacting inside you. So ultimately, you would have no privacy, and the job, the so-called, not the job, but the um, if you're the Most High and you're the creator of everything, and you'll give a description on how everything is created from your Yahushai to the planet to everything else. Yet you still don't have to give a description on how you were created. This is the King of the universe, Yahweh. And so, what rights do you have as being the King of the universe? What rights do you have? Well, you have the right to read into every being that you've created. I'm not just talking about human beings. Animals and everything else. Even the water, the trees, the air, everything. You have the right to look into those things and read how those things are feeling and how they're behaving. You also have the right to control them and manipulate them and make them do what you want to do. So this is why, we always remind you that the Most High has final say on who dies. Everybody that ever perished on this planet was pretty much down to the Most High. He's the all-time serial killer on this planet. He's taken out everybody, anybody that ever existed, by accident, by health issues, by violence, whatever it is. It's down to Yahweh. So ultimately, he's the king of the universe. And if the Edomites were allowed to enforce this MOTB for generation upon generation upon generation, ultimately they would be hijacking those rights and reading into you, reading in your thoughts, and manipulating you and controlling you, controlling your whereabouts, and ultimately, like I say, this is why I say this MOTB thing is their big thing, because it's not just to have control of all the money. They have control of pretty much all the money anyway. Yeah, people are spending cash here, there, and everywhere, but they also account for a black market. You think these banking elites don't influence the black markets? They influence money, full stop. So it's nothing to them to switch it to digital and control it. And yeah, they'll earn a few more income on tax, but they want to be, scriptures tell you they want to be like the Most High. They want to sit in his place. And so they've done that obviously through iconoclasm. The image of Yahushai, they covered over it with their own image, giving you this blonde white boy Jesus character over the top. But they're also physically trying to do it by implementing this MOTB and manipulating you. And so, this new era that they're trying to take you into, this great change, this digitization, the Internet of Things, involves putting an RFID microchip under your skin. And we know that the thing that goes under your skin is modern technology, because it will also be something that'll be inserted into your mind through incisions. And we're living in that time. And that's what we're going to look at with this next particular article. And, the times that we're living in and the way people are behaving, we've explained on many occasions that the MOTB is a thing of deception. And the powers that be are going to try to deceive you to make you feel like you have to make the choice to get this MOTB. The same way they tried to make you feel in 2020 and 21 that you had to go with what they offered you. They put that choice on your plate, and they tried to see if you could be swayed by them to go and take up their offer. And it'll be the same thing with the MOTB. So it's a manipulation, it's a deception, and part of it part of the MOTB, this digitization, Internet of Things, augmenting yourself with virtual reality, so to speak, artificial intelligence, AI. Um, you know, what they're going to do is they're going to try to sell it to you and give you many benefits, and one of those benefits will be health. So they'll say, there's all these people with all these health issues, and by taking an incision in the forehead, we can manipulate you and make you better, or improve your physical status. And while you're there, if you've gone that far, that you're definitely someone who's going to take another incision in your hand, through which you will be buying and selling. So having an incision in their hand and their forehead, the major percentage of the world would have an incision in the hand to buy or sell. Everybody would. But then there will be a smaller majority of people who are also having an incision in the forehead or mind, or any part of the brain, in which to have these so-called health benefits. And at the minute, when you look around the world, through the polluted food and lifestyle that we live, there's many sick people. So there's people are going to be running for this MOTB, and once you take it that far, you're fully gone. So you got a great example here. This is the Telegraph, 1st of August 2023, 8:13 p.m. So this is last night, about 24 hours ago. So it's ADHD in children could be eased with electrical currents to the brain. Okay. Now, this, if you see the image on the screen that's here now, this is the image that comes along with this particular article. This young boy has epilepsy, and they have made an incision into his skin in the head, forehead, back of the head. It's in the head, and they're influencing his mental state, um, and this is obviously falls in line with the times that we're living in, the MOTB. So back to the article itself, ADHD in children could be eased with electrical currents to the brain. Now, again, I've explained, in 2020 and 2021, they were trying to put that thing inside you, and a year or two later, and people were dying, and doctors were doing autopsies, and when they were doing the autopsies, they were opening up people's bodies and finding stringy material that it was not there previously. It's not human, it's not natural to a human. And so what I've explained it all before. What they've tried to do is create a circuit within you, and circuits send electrical impulses. Once they do that, they can read messages and influence part of the body. That's how your brain works as it is. And your brain is connected to every part of your body, right down to your toe, to everything, every part of your body. And every 30 seconds or so, an electrical impulse will go from your brain to each part of your body and say, is everything okay? And because everything is okay, another message goes back to your brain that says everything's okay. That's why you don't feel pain. As soon as one of those messages comes back, there's a problem here, I have an issue, I have an open wound, I'm losing blood, and there's a problem over here on this little finger. The message will come back to your brain and say, there's a problem here, and then ultimately you feel pain. That's why sometimes you don't feel pain until you see the wound you have, because you haven't registered it, and it's in between impulses. So your legs get taken off, your arm got taken off or something, for a couple of seconds. You didn't notice it, and then you feel, because you haven't looked, you get a message back to your brain, something doesn't feel quite right there, but you're still quite not in pain, and then you look, and then the message is completing, because then you have a visual connection, and then all of a sudden pain kicks in, adrenaline kicks in, and you've got this big issue. You'll scream, people scream and do all sorts. So your body's working like that, and Esau, these Edomites, a lot of this technology that they have comes from reverse engineering the human body, And so by learning how the human body works, oh, okay, electrical impulses travel around the body and send messages. So this is, what they want to do. They want to hijack those electrical impulses and ultimately send their own messages. Now, yeah, exactly how I explained it, before. They're going to initially say, look, come on board, take this stuff, and we can cure problems, mental health, so on and so forth. And eventually, they will try to get this into the mass population, as well as have the chip in your hand. Everybody's going to have to have the chip in your hand the day it gets made mandatory, whether you got the incision in your forehead or not. But a vast majority of people will be having incisions in their foreheads. If you look around today, the rate of mental health, it's increasing rapidly. So, we're in that time. So let's read on with this article. It says researchers say scientific community is duty bound to investigate and develop ever more effective treatment for the disorder. Stimulating the brain using electrodes could help ease symptoms of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, in children, a study has found. Transcranial random noise stimulation, TRNS, works by sending a mild electrical current to the brain through two electrodes on the scalp. The study, led by researchers from the University of Surrey, which is down the road from here, and the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Okay, so the small hats are involved on this. And in the previous video, was it the last video or the video before, mentioned, is it Noval Harari, Yuval Harari, and the right-hand man for pretty much for Klaus Schwab. And he was trying to go in on the fact that, why do people blame the small hats to all these disasters that happened in history? It's so-called conspiracy theory. Well, here we are with the next disaster about to take place, which is the MOTB, set up by Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai. And yet again, who's playing a major part in it? The people at the banks with their small hats. And it says here the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, small hats again. So, you can cry that, why does our name keep getting mentioned every time these atrocities take place? Well, another atrocity is about to take place and your name is all over it yet again. So, all we do is point out the facts. If we point it out ahead of time, people say, oh, you're conspiracy theorists. When it comes to play, that's when people say, oh, okay, that was fact. So yeah, reading on. So the University of Surrey and the Hebrew University of Jerusalem explored the use of TRNS alongside cognitive training as a treatment for ADHD. So cognitive training, your brain has thinking patterns, and that's your cognitive thinking. So for example, you get put in a certain situation. If you're gonna chat up a woman, for example, and try and get her phone number, we've all got our own way of doing it, and it's based on the way what we've experienced and how we feel, and what we feel we're capable of doing. So we all approach a woman in a slightly different way, and we all have different cognitive thinkings as to how is the best way to befriend this female. So that's one way in you can understand different cognitive thinking patterns. You'll have two people who do the same job and they do them in completely different ways because they have, and one person will say, well, this suits me to do it this way, and the other person says, well, it suits me to do the opposite way. And when you look at their results, they're pretty much neck and neck. They're producing exactly the same. So that's different cognitive thinking patterns that brought them to that particular result. When you read the book of Daniel, he talks about a vision from Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, and he talks about being overwhelmed and his cognitions changing. And for myself, for example, I've had a particular vision as how I came to this from Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. I was shown 3,000 years, and I was shown certain particular deceptions that are taking place on this earth. So what happens is, you go before this vision takes place. You don't know it's going to take place. You're a certain person in the world. You have certain ways that you think of certain things, and then a vision comes along, and what it will do, the power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is enough to completely change the way you think about everything and turn it upside down by showing you truths. We're here to give you the secrets and the mysteries of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. So when you when you receive those mysteries and those secrets through a vision in front of you, um, you know, thousands of years of information shown to you in seconds. You've received a lot of information in a very short space of time. So the moment that vision finishes, you're automatically a different person. You've changed. You may not have changed 100%, but 50% of you has changed. You get these you get these characters on TV shows, and they say, I've seen things and I've changed, man. And so this is that, you get that hippie who's seen the UFO. I've seen UFOs, man. They changed me, man. Well, as much as silly as that sounds, that's what a fully loaded vision from Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai will do. It will change the way you think. All of a sudden, you thought certain people were trustworthy and normal and okay to get on with. You have this vision. Next thing you know, you realize all these people are liars and false and scoundrels and completely wicked. So all of a sudden, your behavior has to change towards these particular people, towards this particular situation. And that's what it is. That's what Daniel's talking about. Cognition's changing. You can see here, they're trying to change, they're trying to cognitively train the children with ADHD by sending electrical impulses to the brain. Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai doesn't need wires to connect into your forehead to change you. He can just send a vision, send an apparition, and if he wants to change you, he can change you. And that's why when the day of the Lord comes and Yahweh Shai cracks that sky, and these people their whole outlook on life is just going to change. I can't wait. Reading on here says Roy Cohen Kadosh, head of School of Psychology and Professor of Cognitive Neuroscience at the University of Surrey, said, I believe that the scientific community is duty bound to investigate and develop ever more effective and longer lasting treatments for ADHD. The clinical trial included 23 newly diagnosed and unmedicated children between the ages of 6 and 12. Yeah, because they know once you start giving meds to children or adults, you're messing them up in the head. So they want to test this in a clean way, and they have to get children who have never taken medication, pretty much. And that just shows you, you go on medication, it's not a good thing. It says that who were recruited from groups referred to the ADHD clinic by doctors, teachers, psychologists, or parents. Researchers at the Computerized Neurotherapy Lab at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem administered TRNS during cognitive training during each weekday over a 2-week period. So they got this lab in Jerusalem, the small hats, the Computerized Neurotherapy Lab. So neurotherapy, is neuroscience is the messages, pretty much the electrical impulses that are traveling around your body. They have a lab where they're working on them, investigate them, and develop them, and they're doing it computerized. So this is merging man with AI. They've reverse engineered the human being, and they got the data on the screen, and they can work it out, and they manipulate it, and they put it back into you. You see, they're going to pretty much treat you. It's like a mum. Oh, my kid's got ADHD. He's a crackpot. And so what you got to do, instead of going to the PC repair shop, you just got to go to Esau, and he'll plug you in, and he'll go, here you go. I've just downloaded new software. You should have a new son when you arrive home. So you take that troubled child home. You get home. Oh wow, he's a new boy. He's helping me load the dishwasher and unload the shopping and all sorts. You see, Esau wants to play the Most High. So reading on, significant clinical improvement is the title. The next part says the parents of 55% of the group reported significant clinical improvement. There's a thumbs up. So when they're pushing this to the masses, you think of how many people out there are suffering mental health. I work in a hospital, and we're not there to really deal with mental health. We're there just to deal with physical injuries and illnesses. But we're completely overrun every day by people with mental health issues, people trying to jump out of windows, people tell me they can see demons at the window, um, so on and so forth. You've got all sorts. You've got people. You've got these weird sexual offenders that get caught in the act in these particular crimes and get brought in. You get all these. There's probably the spookiest thing I've seen. Right, is this one girl, young girl, about 20, 22, 24. She's walking around the hospital, around A&E with her pushchair. And so what it is, every time I'm walking back and forth to the back to drop paperwork off, do things, blah, 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 I keep finding this girl walking around the corridor, and I keep saying to her, love, like, what are you doing? Got to turn around, come on, let's go back to your little area and sit back in there. And she's like, oh, I just got lost. I was just trying to get here. I was like, where are you trying to go? You're not supposed to be going anywhere. And so what it is, I did this 3 or 4 times. And then I kept thinking, why is it I keep finding her just wandering out of the room? And she's supposed to be in a room where about 15, 20 other people are waiting in a waiting area. And so what it is, one of the nurses told me that you look in the pushchair, it's not a baby, it's a doll. So what it is, this girl's walking around. She walks around with a pushchair, with a plastic baby doll in the pushchair, and as if it's real. And there was some sort of backstory to it, but I can't really remember it. But that's when it tripped me out. I was like, right, you're walking around with this non-existent baby. I think she had a baby and lost it or something. And so the reason why she don't want to, I worked it out. The reason why she don't want to wait in the waiting room is because you're sitting in the waiting room for 3, 4 hours. Everybody's looking at you because you haven't taken your baby out of the pram. You haven't tried to feed your baby. The baby's made no noise. So people start to work it out. She knows people start to work it out. So she cuts out. I got to go somewhere. 10 minutes later, you find her walking around the corridor. Where are you going? Oh, I'm just going here. I'm just going there. Oh, just, yeah. You ain't giving me no answer. Let's go back to your little area. Let's take you back. So this is what it is. There's people out there they're losing it. They're losing the plot. And all these families are struggling with it as well. A lot of families, you look at the families, the mums, the grandmothers, they're all, we had an old couple the other day brought in their son, who's about 30 years old, who's mental health. Half an hour later, the son's trying to beat up the mum and the mum and dad in the waiting area. You, this is all over the place. It's all over the place, especially with the type of drugs people are taking now. You see all these drugs people are taking, they're losing the plot. And there's all types of pressure that's coming, with the money crisis and all sorts. People are depressed, people have got anxiety, people want to kill themselves, people can't handle it. And, they're desperate, they're looking for answers. And, this is going to be the new thing. Let us electrically impulse your brain and, calm you down and sort you out. So carrying on here anyway, it says that 55% of the group reported significant clinical improvement in ADHD symptoms to researchers, compared with 17% in a control group that was given placebo brain stimulation. So there was a group they had who weren't really given any proper brain stimulation, but somehow 17% saw an improvement. And so obviously somewhere along the line, people are bullshitting. We get a lot of 12, 12-year-old, 14-year-old girls coming in. I want to commit suicide. Oh, yeah, why? What's the reason? Oh, my boyfriend dumped me. Oh, how long you been going out with the boyfriend? Oh, 1 month. Okay. So, there's a lot of bullshit out there, but there's also a lot of people that are trying to jump out of windows and walking around with pushchairs with no babies in them. You get a mixture of both. Also, you get I get it quite a lot. You get the youngster that's gone and got smashed on some sort of drug, got caught by his parents, told his parents he got spiked, and then you get the parents march them in. Oh, he's been spiked. No, your son hasn't been spiked because he's standing up. If he was spiked, he'd be laying on the floor. And he keeps looking at me out the corner of his eye. So, he's got his head down, he's got his eyes closed, but every now and again, he keeps looking at me in the corner of the eye when you're not looking. See, this is what it is. So you're standing there looking at these parents, like, yeah. So you get a mixture of both, but there's a lot of crackpots out there at the minute. Carrying on here, Professor Kadosh said the findings demonstrate the treatment has the potential to transform the lives of children and their families. I'm telling you, the families are cracking up, trying to contain people with these mental health and these drug addictions, because the current drugs that are out there today are, just causing, back in the day, you take it back to the 80s or the 90s, people that were really effed up, they were on like crack or heroin. And what was the symptoms of crack or heroin? The bad symptoms. You basically stand there itching all day and you want to go out and steal everything. Now that was bad. But now the drugs that people are taking on next level, so they're becoming mentally ill, becoming like when they're off the drug, they're still mentally ill. And then you see that one, I don't know what it's called, where they take the drug and then they're just hanging around on the street like a zombie. I mean, what does that do to you? So it's going to cause mental health. And the families are under strain. So they're going to come, when you say to them, look, come in with this thing, we've got this new thing, incision in the forehead, AI, artificial mixing man, with a machine, we're going to fix it, scientific, don't worry about the Most High. That's how they drop it. They tell you, oh, would the Most High have let you be born like that? Well, the Most High has. The Most High has put in you through judgment. But, these people in this world, they don't think like that. It says here, ADHD is a neurodevelopmental disorder, and symptoms include hyperactivity and ability and inability to focus and impulsiveness. So, there's a lot of things that lead to that. These foods, they're full of chemicals, the water's unclean, the air's unclean, and a lot of children are growing up with smartphones and iPads and social media, and that's giving them the answer and whatever they want. Um, a rush to the brain every time they come across something new on social media, and that's given to them instantly. So that's why now, you've got a whole generation. You think, these iPhones have been big for what, the last 15 to 20 years, and now you've got fully grown adults, 21, 22, that have been used to just this social media their whole lives. So now they're out there and they're going crazy when they've had to wait 30 seconds too long in a queue or whatever else, or someone, gives them a bit of trouble, this, that, and the other, and then they go from 0 to 60 straight away. There's no way of them being able to control it and talk their way out of a situation. They're too impulsive. And what it is, they want answers quick. You've got that now. That generation are now become adults. So it's according to the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, NICE, it is present in about 5% of children globally. Researchers are now preparing to start a larger clinical trial using TRNS and cognitive training. In July, a study by University College London researchers found that diagnoses of ADHD have more than doubled among boys of age 10 to 16 over the past 2 decades. The study found that in 2018, 3.5% of boys in the age group had diagnosis compared to 1.4% in 2000. The relative increase was largest amongst adults because, like I say, those people that were young are now adults in the last 20 years, and they're the smartphone generation. They've had everything quick, 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 and they go out into the world, and not everything is always quick, quick, quick. Since over that time, there was a 20-fold increase in ADHD diagnosis in men between the ages of 18 to 29 from 0.01% to 0.56%. The TRNS study was published in the Translational Psychiatry Journal. It comes after a major study found that UK lockdowns damaged the emotional development of almost half of children and as well as adults. Since lockdown, you constantly got adults coming into emergency. I don't know why they come in, but they do, and because they don't know where else to go, and they just depressed or this or that. They can't get on with their life. They just can't move on. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is with that lockdown, but it's messed up a lot of people. For me, I was working in the hospital, so I had to keep going anyway. I loved lockdown because when I went out on the street, I had 5 lanes on the highway with nobody else in it. So for me, I was pretty normal going back and forth to work, doing my things. My wife was going to work, so in our household, lockdown just meant no traffic on the road. It was excellent. We got to work. There was many people there. Either people were too scared to come to the hospital. Back to that fear that was put in them. What you're gonna do? You're gonna. They created so much fear around that thing in 2020 and 21. People didn't want to be out, and then they were told to stay at home. And if they were given the choice to go even to the hospital, they weren't really on it. People weren't doing it. And there was that was down to the fear put into them. Do you take this thing from us and be safe, or do you go it on your own and have faith in the Most High? So back to the article, it says parents said their children appeared more worried and had lost confidence more easily and were more prone to tantrums and low moods after the UK lockdowns. The findings emerged in the first study of its kind into the impact of lockdowns on children's behaviour and emotional development. So what Esau's done, by moving into this digital age, 2020 to 2030, that great change, he wants to get the next generation early, and he slapped them all with developmental problems straight away. So any child that was, 1, 2, 3 years old through that period had developmental issues. He put that on them. And so when we emerge into this new era, this next generation are all going to definitely be needing an incision in the forehead, electrical impulses to sort their distorted brains out. But again, my daughter was what was she, 2 and 3, 1 and 2 between the lockdown, but she seems fine. All praises to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, absolutely no problems at all. She nuts out every now and again, but all little children do. She's in that what they call it, the little toddler stage. Carrying on here, anyways. So the findings emerged in the first study of its kind into the impact of lockdowns on children's behaviour and emotional development, with the Institute for Fiscal Studies and the UCL Institute of Education surveying more than 6,000 parents in England. So that's the end of the article. But you go back to this particular image here. This is the image isn't showing up on the article, but it was the image linked with the article, and this is an incision into the brain. We're in that time, the MOTB, and like I say, with the orb, with the CBDC, we've got all these things being developed right now. We've got Neuralink, with Elon Musk, so on and so forth. So it's all a matter of time. The main incision in your skin will be the one that goes under your, in your hand to buy and sell. That's the one you definitely can't take, and you definitely can't take anything in the head. But this is all connected back to the MOTB, merging humans with AI, the wicked plan of the banking elites, the wicked plan to dominate human race. So I hope that was edifying. I'm going to leave it right there. Until next time, I'm going to say all praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakak Kwadash. Until next time, Shalom.